Here on this piece of land used to be a town that was known for their markets, the birthplace of the blues, and a place that used to be migrated to for being a huge place at the time. This place was known as Maxwell Street, the heart of University Village, but the city started their process of gentrification on this neighborhood to make way for USC by destroying the old building, and the only remains from its history is the streets that show what used to be. For example, this empty space here used to be a long-standing building that people used to live in back in the day. No one has talked about this while bringing up Chicago in debates or in history recaps, and the initial goal is to open up people's minds about the origins of the neighborhood and use this park to display art to celebrate the silver lining of the past.
What made you want to do this project?
I was chosen as one of 4 artists to propose a public artwork that would be in front of the 12th District Police Station right up the street on the little traffic triangle. And one of the instructions from the Department of Cultural Affairs, who chose the artist, was that we needed to have community involvement, which I like to do anyway. But it was a little bit scary because I am from Avondale, and that's where my studio is, and I live in Logan Square. And I really wasn't familiar with this area, and I really like to take a very deep dive to find out more. So I just looked at a map, and I saw that Chicago Tech Academy was literally right behind the police department. And I figured you guys would know every day. You walk by there every day, and so you'd be a really good partner because you're so much more familiar with this neighborhood than I am.
Well, exactly, because, it's near Little Italy, which people always come through their area and always feared of the police there,
Well,
Not actually feared, but yeah.
It's a crossroads.
Yeah.
It's a crossroads geographically, but it's also a crossroads historically of a lot of different cultures.
That's true. And what people feel like is that they feel like the police aren't doing that much,
Everyone said that.
Yeah. But honestly, through my eyes, I honestly don't know.
You don't know if the police are doing that much?
Yeah. No.
Well, I talked to the police, and they said they didn't really want it to be about the police. They are so focused on their jobs, and they are, they really do care about the community, no matter what you think of how they present themselves and act with the community. Their perception of themselves is that they do care very much about the community. Do you feel like they care about the community, or are they just not a big presence in your life?
Well, it's not pretty much more of a presence, Is that they're always guarding the streets, and like looking for everyone, but there's a lot happening in the news to say that they probably not doing much, but it's probably different areas. So I never really immerse myself to go out to other neighborhoods myself.
Do you feel safer that they're here? That's one of the questions I asked your class.
I would kind of say, but
That
for
was-
others, no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because some of the kids didn't want to go into the police station even when we were checking out the site.
Yeah, they were hanging out there. And that was in question 5. It says, "Why do you want the police to think about the project?" And you just answered that the police didn't want to get involved with it. Yeah, and then you kind of answered, "What's your opinion on the CPD?" But
What's my opinion?
yeah.
To be really honest, I think it's really complicated because I grew up as a white person, and I always thought the police were there to protect me. And as I've gotten more mature and I've gotten to know other people, African American people, Latino people, and just really started paying attention to their stories, I realized that the police are not everybody has the same opinion of the police that I have. And I really am aware of the fact that I could be stopped by the police and I could just reach over to my glove compartment and, pull out my registration, or I could argue with the police officer and I wouldn't be afraid of them. And I know that's not the same experience for a lot of people. So the idea of doing an artwork in that site that would be about the police in an area, in a world where I know so many people have a problematic relationship with the police, makes it a really difficult place to do an artwork.
Yeah. So we're gonna move aside from the police.
Which is a whole other topic, yeah.
It's very controversial, everybody has their thoughts and feelings about it, And that's what we're trying to accomplish into this project, is to show people what used to be like, from what's happening here in Little Italy, well, University Village, but I call it Little Italy. Why did the organization start this project in the first place?
Well, the Department of Cultural Affairs gets a percentage of every new construction that there is. And so when that police station was built, they had a certain percent of art, 1.33% of the construction budget to go to art. And I think that was 10 years ago, and nothing kept happening. And so finally the money got loose, and the Department of Cultural Affairs put out a call for artists. And then, like I said, one of 4 people were chosen for it. So that's how that came about. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. It fills me in that it's not just filling in the space, but actually spending it,
Right,
It's been sitting there for 10 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do with that money? And then it's a good thing that this is happening, because there would be good use on that money, It's bad worrying on my part.
Well, and the other thing that struck me so much about this area is just how much outside money came in here and tore down all the old neighborhoods that were here. And the people who lived here didn't have a say about it. And so, it really, you've probably heard me say that it was beyond gentrification, it was eradication. And so it was important to me not to be yet another person coming in with outside money from the city, to just sort of here, I'm from the arts and I'm here to help, that I would really try to do an artwork that had some meaning and some relevance to this place. And what was so great about working with this class, the Studix class and the Embark students, is that I always avoided working with teenagers like the plague, because my mother was a high school teacher and she had several nervous breakdowns from working with high school students. Mostly I think it was from working with the faculty, but so I was always really nervous to work around high school students. But what I got from you guys is that you're so free in your thinking. You're not at that stage in life when people have told you no, that your ideas are stupid a lot. It's the ideas you came up with were just brilliant. And I'm glad I took pictures of all those little, those notes. And also, you did the video of people's ideas. When you go through there, I think I'm just gonna have this team of teenagers to work with all the time now to give me ideas, because I get very creatively stuck, because I'm oh, I can't do this or I can't do that because of this reason or that reason. And then the city, they're working with the city is no, you can't have electricity. No, you can't dig in the dirt. No, you can't do this. It's they have all these rules, but you guys were completely unencumbered from all of that. And that made me feel really liberated to come up with an idea like the flying bus, the flying blues bus.
Sadly, that idea didn't go through well because of budget reasons.
Budget reasons, yeah. If the bus had been in better shape, but they had let it sit in a junkyard, and someone came and cut the whole front end off of it. And so I went to all these like different auto body shops and stuff and talked to these old geezers, and they were all like, you know, people who really knew how to fix up cars, and they were like, you'd be better off just finding another bus. Then we thought of like doing a replica of the bus, and it just, and then so I finally got it to the point where we got a budget, because I decided to use the actual bus because the real object has a charge to it. It's something you hear talked about in art, that it has the material itself, the authenticity of it is imbued with a certain spirit that just like making an imitation of it wouldn't have. So, but it was too far gone, and the budget came to almost $300,000 to do it, and then the actual budget for this piece was only $177,000 for the whole thing.
Yeah. Most important question is, what made you become an artist?
Oh no, time to go. I honestly, I think my family was from an immigrant working class family, and they just like, my father didn't even have a high school education. My grandparents didn't even have an 8th grade education. My mother finished college, but I think they just really wanted me to do whatever I wanted, and I showed an aptitude for art and reading when I was young, and they were like, great, you know, she doesn't have to work in the coal mines. And so they really reinforced that in me, that and they kept giving me a lot of positive reinforcement for it. So I started thinking of myself as an artist at a very early age, and it became very satisfying because I'd get positive reinforcement for it. And then I had this impulse to make art. Like a lot of artists will say that. It's like that they are an artist because they can't be anything else. It's like a calling almost.
Yeah. Well, if you haven't talked with us about the project, what would have been your initial idea?
When I think of all the people over all the decades who've come from all over the world to this area, that it kind of symbolized that, those pathways leading into this one little piece of uncontested, unclaimed land. Like somebody in your class said that the bus is like an orphan, that piece of land was like an orphan. And so the bus turned into more like a gazebo type thing that had different doorways in it, showing all the different ways that people entered. So it had, above the door, it had Little Italy on it, and it had Abla, and different ways that people had entered into this community, all to come in this blended light, because the top would have been glass. And it's like a melting pot of light, just like this place was a melting pot of people of all different colors and ethnicities. It turned out to be a beautiful idea. Oh, and it had sound in it, so you guys could collect stories. And I don't know yet whether I've won or lost, but I think we've lost, because when I gave my presentation, they were just big duds.
Wow. Well, that's sad, but...
Oh, I was crushed. I was really crushed. I mean, I was really happy that you guys, I got to see you guys again and just come back into this room.
What is the project right now?
Well, where it's at is the selection committee for the city. The Department of Cultural Affairs is making their decision, and we are supposed to find out on Thursday whether we won or not. And like I said, I don't think so, just from the reaction in the room. But another artist will be chosen, and that actually could be a really, all of the other artists, the 3 other artists, they're all friends of mine. I know them from the art community. The art community is extremely social.
It's fair fight.
It's a fair, they're all outstanding artists, and it'll be very interesting to see what they choose. And I suggest, if you wanted to continue the film, it's like maybe you do a film picking up with what they do.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have a lot of community process, and I can connect you with whoever wins.
Maybe a sequel.
A sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Now you're thinking.
and instead of the bus idea, what was the place? What is the
Maxwell Street.
Mm-hmm.
Maxwell Street Market,
Oh, you were going to put Maxwell Street.
because you guys talked about it a lot,
Yeah.
and I couldn't fit in every single great idea that you had. Like, I mean, I would love to see it become like a place where street cart vendors go. That's what somebody said.
It could be a place that it would be annually celebrated here, you know.
I didn't think. See what I'm talking about?
It could be
That's,
a festival, you know. I'm thinking about it. Why why is there a festival about some Area 51 people? You know, they want to raid Area 51. They're like making parties there in Nevada, and why not do it here instead?
I love it. I mean,
Yeah.
you could like put up a sheet
Mhm.
and some folding chairs and screen your video out there. Yeah, just start using that space.
Yeah.
And then thinking about too is that the fact that it's outside, that the police are literally sitting in a row looking out the windows at that space. I mean, if you wanted to be more, communicate more with the police, you could do things out there.
Yeah, we could even invite the police.
But
out of their jobs, you know.
They would, they might like that.
Yeah.
Because they really say they want to have more community engagement. And I went to this meeting they had for their community policing plan. And a lot of people from the community were there, but they were talking about so many of the suggestions from the community were about how they wanted youth to be working with seniors. And that's exactly what and police, and that's exactly what this project could have been. Also, the police have a group of teens that they work with called the Explorers.
The last question, question 8. What advice do you have for any young artists out there?
I have. You need, if you have a strong impulse to be an artist, you should definitely follow it, because there's so many opportunities for artists in so many walks of life, in so many areas, so many careers, and you tend to think that, oh, it's just like get in a gallery, get in a museum. It's like that's just like one very narrow aspect of the art world. And the other, so yeah, don't talk yourself out of pursuing being an artist. And the other thing about being an artist is you have to it's a really bad head game that you get into. There's a lot of self-doubt to overcome, and just know that every artist has that. And the only difference is that those of us who become artists for our lives, we plow through those times of self-doubt, and we don't let them. We just know that's all it is. And you just keep making art. Just keep making art. That's the secret to being an artist. Make art.
Yeah. Also, keep practicing.
Keep practicing,
Yeah.
like what you're doing now.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
But hopefully this documentary inspires some future artists to consider making decisions on being part of the community and actually making something that millions can see, while coming through here. And it would teach others on how it looks like and how we perceive that perspective now. Honestly.
Oh.
You did a good job, man. You're holding the camera well,
Yeah, he's got a very steady hand, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's not shaking at all.
No, he's the human tripod.
The human tripod. We don't even need a tripod. There's no tripod here.
No.
We can just ask you. You're a good camera.
Save money. Don't need to buy a tripod.
Yeah, shout out to cameraman.
Yeah. Cameraman.